Dear colleagues, good morning. We would like to greet you with the spring coming, and now we are giving the floor to spokesperson of Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, Oleksiy Chornobay. He will update us on the activities of the ministry over the past week. Good morning, dear audience. I'm glad to see you at our briefing. The Ministry of Defense of Ukraine continues implementing reforms oriented to streamline its activities. By the moment, the Ministry of Defense have already concluded 80% of contracts and supplemental agreements stipulated by the State Defense Order for 2016. This reform facilitates timely execution of the orders of the Ministry for weaponry and military equipment. In particular, by the moment, the Ministry has registered in the State Register 1 governmental contract and 31 supplemental agreements to ongoing contracts for a total amount of 1,135,000,000 hryvnias. Another two contracts for 16 million for 11 million hryvnias and 10 supplemental agreements for 316 million hryvnias are ready for signing. The Ministry of Defense conducted acceptance tests of Ukrainian production of mortars of 120 millimeter caliber, and the state testing of automated electro-optic jammer has been accepted to service. Upon the testing, the Armed Forces of Ukraine purchased and supplied 8 cross vehicles and 13 lead-based radars. The auditors of the Armed Forces of Ukraine have passed training on the topic certified internal auditor and combating money laundering and terrorism financing, and also spread of mass extinction weaponry. Thanks to the recommendations provided by internal audience from the start of the year, this year, the Ministry of Defense prevented losses for the amount of 8 million hryvnias. They also issued 200 recommendations aimed at improving efficiency of financial governance and materials management. At the main clinical hospital of Ukraine, the fourth mission of Canadian surgeons has been completed. They operated ATO soldiers who were injured in the operation. 22 Canadian volunteers, doctors, consulted 100 injured military men of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. They performed 40 surgical operations and corrected post-trauma facial deformations and scars on the faces and arms of the soldiers. The mission was organized by Canadian-Ukrainian Foundation under patronage of the Congress of Ukrainians in Canada. The funds for project implementation in the amount of 1,200,000 Canadian dollars were provided by the Department of Foreign Relations, Trade and Development of the Government of Canada. Canadian doctors brought all the equipment with them for the total amount about 700,000 Canadian dollars. From the 1st of autumn, the state medical universities will train reserve for the military medical service of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. So far, the universities, medical universities in Vinnytsia, Lviv, Odessa, and Ivano-Frankivsk are ready to start training medical reserve, and Lviv National Medical University is going also to open postgraduate studies department. Last year, 7 7,000 military men of the armed forces of Ukraine were awarded the status of combatant for participation in ATO operations. So far, 126,731 persons have already been granted combatant status in the armed forces of Ukraine. The intent to make contracts with armed forces of Ukraine last week was revealed by 1,200 citizens, including mobilized conscripts. Therefore, starting with the beginning of 2016, the number of persons willing to serve in the armed forces of Ukraine is 9,000 persons. We should also know that military pensioners may also make contracts with the armed forces of Ukraine, and they will continue to receive their military pensions. That's all for today, and now I'm giving the floor to Major Sergiy Zhmyrko, ATO spokesman. He will provide us information about dynamics of hostilities in ATO zone in the last 3 days. Good morning, Mr. Zhmyrko. On 26th of February, during the Russian terrorist-backed militants continued shelling on ATO positions. 35 shellings and fire incidents were registered for the first time within several days. The truce was violated in Lugansk sector. The strongholds near Mariinka, Avdiivka, Piski, Lugansk were fired on of grenade launchers, heavy machine guns and small arms. Hostile snipers delivered fire on our positions near Novgorodsk, Mariinsk and Lugansk. The stronghold near Novgorodsk came under mortar fire, non-precision fire using grenade launchers and heavy machine guns was delivered by mercenaries on positions of our army near Opitne, Piski and Butivka mine. On 27th of February, 41 shelling on Ukrainian armed forces positions were registered. In Donetsk sector, the enemy fired on our strongholds of small arms, heavy machine guns and grenade launchers near Zaitsevo, Novgorodsk and Lugansk. Our strongholds near Zaitsevo came under fire of mortars of 82 and 120 millimeter. In Mariupol sector, pro-Russian mercenaries fired of heavy machine guns and grenade launchers on the strongholds of Ukrainian army in Mariinka and Novotroitsk, and they also used anti-aircraft system near Berezove. In some sectors near the contact line, our divisions, our army returned fire of small arms. On February 28th, there were 71 incidents of fire from the side of mercenaries. They fired on Ukrainian army, including 36 in Donetsk sector, 22 in Mariupol sector, and 13 in Lugansk sector. In Donetsk sector, the mercenaries used grenade launchers and heavy machine guns, and they also used anti-aircraft system near Staromikhalovka and fired on strongholds near Krasnogorivka. In Lugansk sector, they used grenade launchers, heavy machine guns, and small arms, and they fired near Zolote and Kalinovo-Popasna. Russian mercenaries intensified their actions when the night comes, and they continue to use the weaponry which is banned by the Minsk agreements. These are mortars of 82 and 120 millimeter caliber. In Donetsk sector, terrorists 3 times used them, and at 8 o'clock p.m. they used them. And in Lugansk sector, the enemy intensified its activities and used mortars and grenade launchers near the village of Orekhove. A non-precision fire of Russian terrorists was conducted on armed forces of Ukraine positions using 120 and 82 millimeter mortars, grenade launchers, and heavy machine guns near Mariorsk, Krasnogorivka, Avdiivka, Lugansk, Boguslavska, and Novoznamenka. After the midnight, the shellings on our position stopped. On February 29, the Russian-backed terrorists 54 times violated ceasefire. They fired on ATO forces positions. 35 violations were registered in Donetsk sector and 19 in Mariupol sector. The mercenaries proceed violating Minsk agreements, and at 6 o'clock p.m. they fired on positions of our army near Gnutovo. The strongholds near Krasnogorivka, Piski, Troitsky, Vodene came under fire of heavy machine guns, grenade launchers, and small arms. Non-precision fire of mortars of 82 millimeter at 6 o'clock p.m. mercenaries fired in Krasnogorivka, and at 7 o'clock p.m. they used 120 millimeter mortars and fired near Nevelsk. A total of 208 ceasefire violations were registered within the period from 26 to 29th of February. That's all for today. Thank you. So we will listen to you next time on Friday.